And not just on Sabbath when you feel morally obligated to be here. If we would just inconvenience ourselves, God would answer our prayers sooner. So watch this now. Peter is in the boat with Jesus. Jesus is now speaking to him. He's already spoken to the crowd, and he now turns his attention and says to Peter, put down your net. Peter doesn't not do it, he does it. Yes, he has some reservations because he's already done this thing all night long, but he still does it anyways. What are you saying? Okay, I'm glad you asked. I don't even know your name, but I can tell you want me to answer that question. Jesus tells him to lower his net down because at the end of the day, in order to do this thing and grow as Christians, we must obey.
Yes.
It's just that simple, Pastor Nichols. So many of us are trying to find the latest version of Bible so that we can see what the NIV has to say or the King James Version. And in any version it says, lower down your nets, and he does it. Because in order to increase your faith and relationship with Jesus Christ, you've got to do what he says, and not on your time, but on his time. Can't do it on your own time, because if you do it on your own time and you're successful, then you don't need God. And if you don't need God, then the church is irrelevant for you. And if the church is irrelevant for you, then you have no problem coming and sitting down and enjoying the performance and going back to whatever you want to do, because you don't get it. You have to obey. How do I know that? Many of you guys have children. When your children say no to you, what do? You know what? Forget it. Especially now that we have the cameras rolling and stuff like that. Somebody said pop them. That's not what they meant. We have to obey, because whenever we obey God, we begin to have his mind. Because when you don't do what is natural to do, because God says no, then sooner or later you will understand the implications of not obeying God and obeying your own personal flesh. And when we cease to obey our personal flesh, we actually can live together in more harmony, because we're developing the mind of Christ. So when Jesus says to all of us to lower down our nets in our own circumstances and our own situations, then we're actually coming in line to become one. You don't get it, so let me say it a different way. If we all obey the Word of God to the letter of it, and we love the fact that God tells us what to do and when to do it to improve our quality of life, we would even be happier. Say it another way, Pastor Anderson. If we obeyed and we gave what we're supposed to for this building we can't go into, then we would stop talking about money. He lowers down the net. And I know some of you have your ovens on preset, too bad. Here's the crux of where the message ends on. When he lowers his net down, immediately it begins to fill with fish. So much so that the net is about to burst. Or it's in the process, Brother Fernando, of breaking. It's a participle there. What if we became uncomfortable and we began to drop our nets at high school, telling people about Jesus in between classes? What if we began to lower our nets on our jobs? Not pretending like inappropriate jokes at the coffee machine are funny because you don't want to stand out in an awkward way. What if we lowered down our nets in terms of pride and having to do things our own way? If we actually lowered our nets, we would find that we would catch people for Christ immediately. Because here's what I understand. Everyone is hurting. Come on, church. Don't look so sedity with all your makeup and your suits on. Work with me here. Every single person in here is hurting in one capacity or another. Even those of you that have mastered the art of smiling while crying on the inside, every single person in this room right now, today, as young as the youngest child who has any sense, everybody has a problem in here. So if everyone has a problem in here, that means everyone out there has a problem. The difference between out there and here is you get to tell them Jesus saves. So if you tell them about this man that helps you in your life, with your finances, with your health, with your spirituality, when you tell them through how you live your life, they will get snagged in the net. See, you're quiet because you know what I'm telling you? You have to put time into this thing. Some of you as ladies, you'll put makeup in your purse. Fill up the bag with Kleenex and tissues and bonbons and candies. Why not download an app on your Bible? So that when somebody says, nobody loves me, you can pull out your phone when we get to the new building and show them that John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave. Because if we're all hurting, and I agree with you, Donald, because we're all hurting, Jesus shows up based on our needs. So while there are multiple people in the room that have different hurts, Jesus is the common denominator that saves. You don't have to say amen. I know I'm on fire this week too. While the net is bursting, in the process of breaking, here's what Peter does. Peter doesn't try to catch everything by himself. He calls on the others. Let me tell you, heart to heart right now, the pastors, the elders, the deacons, the media team, that everyone, whatever's out there, we're tired. We're tired. We are tired. And when I say tired, I don't mean tired of serving Jesus. We're physically exhausted because you have some people who do 4 things for the church. Why am I telling you this? We would love to get more hands helping in the ministry. More individuals that will do one thing for the Lord so that those that are doing 5 and 6 things, they can do one less thing. Read the text. When the nets start breaking, Peter doesn't just hold on. He calls others to help. And when he calls them to help, they come to help. Daniel, you can start playing, please. Why am I saying this to you? If we are short-staffed now in a size of building like this, we're moving into a building that's about 30 or 40% bigger. We can't do ministry in a bigger building with the same amount of people. Well, if that's the way you felt, Pastor, you didn't have to do a whole sermon to ask for help. Yes, I did. So let me tell you a story. I went to a place on the continent of Africa. It was a rough trip, Sister Beulah. I went there to do missionary work, and when I got there, I realized that sometimes when you go to do missionary work, there's still racial challenges. People don't always tell you about this stuff, but I'm just going to tell you what happened. I won't tell you where I was, but it's true. I went on this trip for exactly 1 month. I was so excited. I was going to go and help to build a church, do some medical ministry, as well as doing the preaching of the word. 1 month. I'd never even been further than New Jersey, and now I'm on the continent of Africa. When I get out there, I realize that there are some elephants in the room that we're going to have to tackle as a church. That there is racism. There are people doing the Lord's work that don't want to stand beside somebody that's a different color. It's a sad thing, but it's true. Okay, say it a different way. There are some of us that are of the same color but different continent, different island, and sometimes we can't even work together. So I'm out there and I'm preaching to the best of my ability. I don't even have the skill set of evangelist. It's not one of my giftings. It's very challenging for me. So every night when I've got to get up and present these biblical truths, I'm struggling because I'm the guy that would prefer to play kickball with a kid versus having to stand up there and do a sermon. That's me. By the time we get through halfway of this trip, this racial tension, it's so bad that even when we're almost at a point to dedicate this church that we're building for the Lord, the blacks are in the back and the whites are in the front. True story. By the time the last week is there and it's time to begin moving back to come back home, I'm so mad because I've never felt so powerless. Can you imagine being on the continent of Africa, knowing all of the history about some of the diaspora and the slave trade? I've got all of that bottled up in me. Plus I have an attitude problem anyways. And now I'm building a church with other hands for the Lord, and you're going to dedicate a church and put the whites in the front and the blacks in the back? I was livid. But you know we do that too. Because sometimes we put the rich up front and the educated up front, and we put those that don't have any, and we put them at the back. And maybe now's a good time to tell you I'm taking 2 weeks vacation starting tonight. I'm so mad that I just stopped talking because I don't even have the words to say. How do I communicate with you that it's not okay to have some up front and the rest at the back? I can't say anything, so I'm quiet. So it's the last dinner before we start moving from where we are in this region, before we start heading back to Qatar, to head back to Germany, and then head back to Toronto. I'm sitting there at dinner, I'm all by myself. I don't want to talk to anybody. I have no friend or foe at that point. I'm quiet because, you know what? I wanted to quit the ministry right then and there. Because I don't want to preach for a church that's what I was thinking. So while I'm sitting there, my back is to a lake. And I don't know why, I just turn around and in the moment I'm looking and there's these lights in a distance. So the guy that's serving us the food, I say to him, "What are those lights over there?" He says to me, "The lights over there are fishermen. It doesn't take much light, just a couple of little lights, and they put them along the shoreline because there are a specific type of fish that respond to that kind of light." What are you saying, Pastor Pastor Anderson. I almost gave up because I made the injustices more about me than Jesus, the light of the world. You'll be persecuted. You will be lied on. You will be disrespected. Maybe racism will never go away. There will be favoritism. Somebody will say, this is my chair, even though there's no titles on the pew. Somebody won't say good morning. Somebody will pretend like they don't understand what you're saying. Somebody will run your name in the dirt, but at the end of the day, Jesus says, if I be lifted up. Let me tell you, can I just do this? Because I don't always get emotional, but I'm emotional right now. And I want to tell you why I am. Because God has been speaking to me for months now. And He's been telling me to tell you guys that coming on Saturday without changed behavior is not good enough. The grudges, the division, the separation, the class separation, He doesn't care about it. Why are you passionate about this thing? Because when I go to other places sometimes where the teaching isn't even sound doctrine, the reason why those buildings are filled at times is because people have learned to love one another. So what if we added love to the truth we have? When I got back from that trip, I had decided that I was going to tell the church exactly what happened, about the injustices that happened to myself and many of the other black individuals that were on the trip. You know why I shut my mouth? Because why would I cut a hole in the net that I need to catch fish? Right? It's true, I laugh a lot. Because I know the pain that I've been through, and I know the pain that you're going through. But I'm being very serious right now. We have to move now from building to building. We have to move from edifice to relationship. You know why I love Jesus? Because Jesus understands that when people are struggling with sin and with faith, He zeroes in on them, forgets about the multitude, because the relationship is right here. And maybe all I'm saying to you this Sabbath morning is, many of you need to get back into the right relationship with Jesus Christ. If you do, your blood pressure will go down, your hypertension will go away, your irritability will stop. Because how can you be upset all the time when you know where you're going? Not just across the street, but in the earth made new. So here's the very specific appeal today. Some of you that are here have never made a commitment for God. Make a commitment today. That's the appeal. Join the church. God asked me to lower the net this morning, and if you are not a part of our church, and you've been delaying and procrastinating, just join the church. Because we need more people to let down more nets because we're running out of hands. crucified. Crucified, lay behind. You lay. I'm sorry. If you're in the building, step forward. If today is your day, the what next is, join the church and watch God move in your life. That's it. Join the church and watch God move in your life. I'm only going to take a minute. I'm only going to take a minute.